Okay, hello, and welcome to the latest episode of Tech and Learning Conversations. My name is Kevin Hogan. I'm happy you're joining us, and really excited about this week's guest. Alana Winnick and I have had conversations, I guess, for the past 3 years. She was one of the first to really bring the phrase AI into focus for me when it comes to how it's going to have an impact on education. Of course, we all know since 3 years what has happened with that particular acronym and how important it is to everybody's daily life. And so this conversation also was terrific because we get to have a sneak peek into what Alana is thinking next, not only for her district, but for education in general. And she'll be sharing those thoughts this January at FETC in Orlando in Florida. But we get to have a sneak peek first. So let's dig right in. Okay, Alana, it's great to see you, although not in person, over Zoom. This is the second best, right?
Yeah, it's so great to see you again.
And as we were discussing right before we started recording, I think we met maybe 3 years ago. Well, I think it was right around the time that generative AI was coming out. You were
Yeah,
speaking at an event, a relatively, but well, it was a tech and learning event,
it was.
a small, usual thing,
It was
fun.
in Philly, I think. I think
Yeah,
that's what it was, right?
Philly or Jersey or yeah, so, somewhere up around there.
Yeah, it was in that
New
region.
Brunswick,
It's
maybe.
not a plane ride away. That's all I know.
Right, right. There's no overnights involved. And now I'm talking to you as you get ready to keynote FETC 26.
Yeah.
So you've been on a journey. The topic of which you were first writing about at that time has certainly made some strides, and things are a little different than that first conversation we had. Right? Maybe we start
Yeah.
off just talk a little bit about where we were then, where you were still explaining to people what AI was.
Yeah.
I think we've gotten through a lot of the myths now. And give us a state of the play from your perspective of where that technology with your book you had started off all those months ago.
Yeah, so back then it was very new. I think ChatGPT had only come out just a few months prior. And I think the landscape was very different because people didn't even understand what AI meant, nor did they understand how this impacted education whatsoever. So at that time, it was really just opening people's eyes to possibilities so they could become more open minded. And I think that now, flash forward like 3 years later, we have student facing tools now. So at that time, we did not have that type of technology, and people were resistant and scared and hesitant. And well, there's bias, there's misinformation, and there's all of these things. And yes, there's still concerns, but I think we've gotten past that hump and we've really put this in the hands of students. And I always say, like, when people are like, oh, let's talk about how we could roll this out with teachers. I'm like, yes, that's lovely. I would love to talk about getting teachers comfortable, but I don't want a teacher to use this to create a worksheet that they have always done for 200 years. I want them to really rethink what's possible, right? So AI allows us to rethink what's possible and also to provide really equitable access to all learners and give them what they need when they need it in the way that they need it. And my end goal is always getting it in the hands of students. And I think we're finally here 3 years later.
Yeah, yeah. And I also just noticed the lineup that you have for January. It's not just the keynote. You've got a number of sessions that kind of span all kinds of. And one of the things I really like about your work is how you're able to integrate the nitty gritty of the technology, but at the same time, kind of the human interaction with it, the social uh, part of it, which is the kind of the human behavior and using it. As you look at your list of sessions, the one that came down for me was when you were talking about the more than the band,
Oh,
uh,
beyond the ban. Yeah.
beyond the band. Yeah, if you could talk a little specifically about that, and then in a wider picture, um, just what I said. I mean, how you see that interaction between the human use of technology and how it integrates with technology in general.
You know what's so interesting with that is after my first book came out, I was like, I don't know what I would ever write about. I don't know if I have another book in me. And like I literally have a Google Doc with a date stamp and time of something I started working on. And it was because I was personally struggling with my devices controlling my life instead of me controlling them. And I was trying to navigate and fix that. I never got an Apple Watch because I was already too connected and I thought it would make me more connected. And then I realized if I control my devices, this is actually more helpful to me because I can decide who gets through to me at work or at home, and I have different modes. So if my boss texts me, my wrist vibrates, but it actually allows me to be much more present with people around me because I actually noticed that I check my phone less. So I was personally struggling with that. Then the whole anxious generation thing came out, and this was all pre-anxious generation. And so that's something that I personally felt a connection with. And I'm like, if I'm feeling this, then my students are probably feeling this very much so, and my teachers, right? So then we started banning cell phones last year. And this year in New York State, it's a statewide ban. We can't have cell phones. But I personally believe with everything we do, we can't just make rules from the top down and enforce them. I actually have a different approach. Like when I was rolling out AI, we were in agreement at the top that we wanted to do this. But you get your pioneers doing it. But to get a district-wide approach, you really need a lot of support. And I really found if you go from the bottom up and you get the students involved, then I really see a lot of change happen. But with this ban thing, going back to the ban, I find that if we just take the cell phones away and don't explain the why, then that's not really helpful to the student. Like, then we're just punishing them. They don't understand why it's happening. And the reality is, our job as educators is to prepare them for the real world when they graduate, whether they go to college and then the workforce or straight to the workforce. They need to be successful for that. So, everything I do, whether it's AI integration, preparing them for the future, or this Beyond the Band and this digital wellness initiative that I've been running since last year, it's preparing them for life. So when they're our age, right, we're sitting here, we're on a Zoom, we're having a conversation. I need to know that I have my phone right here, I have my watch right here, and I could be getting notifications from emails, from texts. Like, how do you navigate all of that? And how do you put healthy boundaries around all of that? Because if we're just banning the cell phones and not telling them why, then they graduate and now they have their cell phone next to them. How can they regulate themselves? We have to teach them that. If our job is to help them be successful, then they need to learn why this is happening and how to regulate themselves. So I don't like making rules from the top down without explaining to them why we make these decisions and also including them in the decision. But that session is going to be really interesting because I have this student who came from a Montessori, completely nature based school, did not use any technology, never used a phone or an iPad, nothing. Came to my school, and now we have, I mean, technology vomited all over the walls, right? Screens, laptops one to one. This kid didn't even know what a cell phone was.
Wow.
And now he's speaking about AI in education, but he always advocates for balance. And I think that that's so important. Like, I've been doing this, like I mentioned, this really big initiative where I have my teachers reflect on creation versus consumption and the student use and looking at their students' data. We have ClassLink Analytics Plus, so reviewing their data to see, like, what does the day of a life in a student look like? What types of things are they doing, right? If it's just something that could be done on paper, then maybe just do it on paper. Like, no one's saying you have to use technology for the sake of it.
Sure.
So, yeah, I think it's just really important with AI. The digital wellness is like, it's very aligned, and people think, oh, you're like forward thinking, innovative AI, and then you're talking about digital wellness. But I think they're symbiotic, and you need both.
Absolutely. And I think to your points, I think we have to, as adults, as I'll speak as an educator,
Yeah.
have to regulate our own behavior,
Yeah.
right? I
Yeah.
don't want to tell you how many hours my phone told me I was up or down last week on my iPhone, right?
Right.
And there's the second responsibility, the more and more conversations I've been having here with tech and learning this fall, I think a lot more responsibility needs to fall upon the industry, and not only specifically education, technology specific tools, but also the platforms. it was just last month in California where they passed a bill where they're going to now have to put up like almost like a smoking label whenever kids open up their app and saying, "Hey, if you spend more than 3 hours a day on this, you're having bad effects for your mental health," right? And that's just
Or
like a
you could put
basic one.
limits. You could put like I have a limit. So if I go over whatever I set, like 30 minutes of social media, it will say you've exceeded your limit for the day and you can override it if you want. But at least it's telling me that because don't even know. You get so sucked in and you have no idea it's happening.
Yeah. And to able to direct curriculum or use, say, an iPhone properly in a classroom to be able to kind of shut everything down except for the thing that you're using at that very moment. Maybe that there is a potential, but I heard the same things about Chromebooks 15 years ago. And
I mean, I also
in the
just think it's
classroom, right?
kind of funny if you like, okay, maybe not elementary, but if you think about a senior, some of them are 18 years old. They could vote, they could buy a gun, they could do lots of things, but they can't have a cell phone in class.
Right. Right.
It's just funny. Like, I don't know. Just to think it's funny to think about it through that lens.
Yeah. Well, talk a little bit about you were mentioning kind of the top down and the bottom up, and I love that too because it's very much of the school of like invention is a flower, but innovation is a weed, right? I mean, it takes that just to spread and for people to be using them, students, teachers, administrators,
Yeah.
and like, and then you go from the classroom up to the administrative level. Talk about how you tried to, you mentioned some of the sessions that you have, but go a little deeper into developing that culture of enthusiasm for this stuff without it being overdone.
So I I have I lead clubs. It's a very interesting as a district leader. Most leaders don't lead clubs. I think it keeps me so connected to the students and I really understand what's happening in the classroom. Like I learned today, the kids told me, and this is horrible. They're like, I can't wait for tech to end. Like you love tech. What do you mean you can't wait for tech class to end? Like, we're learning PowerPoints. I learned that in third grade. I'm like, why are you learning? I didn't say that, but I'm
Yeah.
thinking,
Yeah.
what's going on in tech?
Yeah.
And I better go check on that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
How would I know what the kids are learning unless I'm talking to them,
Yeah.
right? So I lead Mondays TED Talk Club, Tuesdays Innovation Club, and Wednesdays AI Club. And I give every district leader or building leader, any leader, the challenge to lead a club, even if you don't get paid because it's like a union thing, do something you're passionate about. It could be hiking club, it could be crocheting. My French teacher does that. It could be whatever you're passionate about, but you're going to be able to connect with a group of students who are equally passionate about that. And you will learn so much from that 1 hour every week than you will ever learn from any walkthrough, any observation, any team meeting, because you're really connecting with the students and they're trusting you and they're sharing things with you. But in my innovation club, we help really implement technology. So I don't have a STEM teacher, I don't have a tech integrator. It's really just me. And the way that I do professional development is actually like with students. So the example I've been giving recently, because I think it's a really powerful one, like AI and all that stuff, it's on a computer, right? Teachers, maybe they're not as great with computers, but it's still something they're sort of familiar with. We have VR headsets. That is like a piece of hardware that they've never touched. And that's scarier for them than something like AI because it's a physical thing, right? So I bought these VR headsets years ago and no one ever used them. They just sit there and collect dust. The kids see them, they're like, wait, we have VR headsets. Why are we not using them in class? So I gave them the headsets. I said, figure them out. The directions were wrong. They read the directions. They renamed them. They make Canva posters. We invited the teachers in for them to come experience it. We didn't expect them to actually remember how to use it when we taught them. And now, if you have an innovation club in your class, you don't even need to know how to use the VR headsets. And the kid in the class will run the whole experience. So I think what we need to do is remove the barrier because there's a lot of teachers that are open minded to new technology, whether it's AR, VR, AI, anything. There's just there's a barrier, right? There's some that are not open minded and they're resistant and hesitant, but there's some that are open minded, but there's a barrier. And I think however we can remove that barrier will allow them to be more open-minded. And a lot of times there's a culture where the teacher is a knowledge bearer and they, lecture or speak at students. And we're trying to create a culture where everyone learns from one another. So a teacher can learn from their peer, a teacher can learn from a student, a leader can learn from a teacher or a student. And we're just creating this culture where everyone learns and grows from one another. I actually have a session on that. It's called like building a community of leaders. And it's the only way when people visit my district, like, how did you do all of this? It's because I have an army of children who are willing, capable, and ready to work alongside their teachers to make change in their classrooms. And when they see it, like, they're so excited. Like, a kid will stop me in the hallway. Oh my God, this teacher's using Canva. We're turning our books into we're turning our essays into Canva books. Like,
Yeah.
we're making video PSAs. Like, they're so excited
Yeah.
about the technology and they know that they had something to do with it. So they're just so much more like invested.
Yeah. Okay. Well, to wrap things up, I'll put you on the hot seat here since, you are rightfully seen as a visionary. It generated iBook 3 years ago, and here we are. Give us, I won't make it so hard to say it has to be a prediction. Let's say a hope.
Mm.
If things progress as they are and you are doing the keynote for FETC in 2029, what are your hopes to see as these technologies continue to advance at a crazy pace, and people's adoption of them and integration of them also continue at pace? What are we looking at then?
So I think for me, it's not really about the technology itself. I've always, always, always believed that education needed to change. I think that it's still very traditional. It's still very much the same as when you and I went to school. I think and hope and dream that we will rethink what teaching looks like. We will rethink what learning looks like, and we will rethink what assessment looks like. Because in a world where AI can really just do your work for you in a matter of seconds, then we really need to rethink, I say, the what, the why, the how, what we're asking our students to do, why we are asking them to do it, and how we are assessing them. So I hope and dream that in 2029, if you're a student in school, your school experience looks a lot different than it does today.
Excellent. Well, as always, I really draw the energy from your passion. I know that you love what you do, and the students, not only in your district, but around the country, around the world, really kind of benefit from it. So thank you for your work. And I look forward to seeing you in person at FETC in January.
I didn't know you were coming. That's so exciting.
Yeah, I hope so. We'll see.
Yeah, I'll see you there.
Okay. Thanks to Alana for her time and for the passionate work that she does every day to prepare students, not just for tests, but for a life in a world where technology is everywhere and learning looks nothing like it did when we were in school. Now, if this conversation made you think differently about cell phone bans, student leadership, or how to balance innovation with digital wellness, share it with your colleagues. And be sure to subscribe to these conversations here on Tech and Learning. I really enjoy making them, and I hope you enjoy listening. Thanks again.